Guess what, fam? I just took these photos the other day, and here is a side-by-side of me at exactly the same weight, but 2 years prior. So October 2022 versus now October 2024. And I weigh 140 pounds in both, but you can obviously see that my body changed a lot. My waist is way more snatched, nice flat stomach with defined abs, and most of all, you can see my booty is popping. I've got some really sculpted, really defined legs and glute definition. So this is something that I wanted for so many years in my fitness journey, and I finally have it. So for all you ladies out there who want to grow your glutes, you want to have a sculpted defined bubble butt, you want sculpted defined legs while still maintaining a small waist, flat defined abs, and a toned but not overly developed upper body. So I'm going to explain exactly how you can get that physique, and shockingly how you actually need to eat more and work out less in order to do so. So stay tuned. I'm going to be going through the 3 things you need to do to build your legs and glutes. What's going on, Fit Fam? Welcome on back to my channel. My name is Megan Janice, the founder of Nomadic Fitness, and I teach you ladies how to build that beautiful, sexy hourglass body, eating more and working out less without any restrictions, so you can maintain your results year-round for life. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Come follow me over on Instagram for even more content. And if you're coming on back, thanks so much for joining for another video. So you just saw my 2-year side-by-side, and I'm gonna go back even a little bit further to 2.5 years, about May 2022 versus just now October 2024. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you've maybe seen this picture of me quite a few times. This is right before I started working with my one-to-one coach, who has absolutely changed my life. And as you can see, I was a little bit, skinny fat. I had been working out for 6 years at this point. I have been lifting weights religiously, lifting really heavy weights 5 days a week, doing lower body 3 days a week, plenty of squats, hip thrust, deadlifts. And I was also religiously tracking macros. I was always on point with that. I was hitting my targets. I was eating 1 gram per pound of body weight and protein. And you would think, isn't that enough to see some really crazy results? And it's not to say that I didn't have any, because prior to doing this, I was definitely a little bit more overweight. I had more body fat. So of course I had achieved some results. I was honestly a good 20 to 30 pounds down just from getting into weightlifting at all, learning about macros, learning how to eat right, get enough protein, etc. But for all of this effort, I was so frustrated that I did not have the defined legs and glutes that I really wanted, that thankfully I now have. And again, I actually got this result eating more and working out less. So how is that possible? Let me break it down for you so that you can also achieve these results and finally have that really sculpted, defined hourglass body you've been dreaming of. Okay, the first thing you need to do in order to build your legs and glutes and be able to easily maintain it with a small waist, all of the good things, is you must go through and cycle through the 3 different stages of bodybuilding. The 3 different stages are a reverse diet, or reversing, cutting, or going into a calorie deficit for fat loss, and especially the one that you're most likely all avoiding is building, which is also called bulking, aka going into a calorie surplus to really maximize muscle gain. So one of the biggest mistakes that everybody makes, including myself, back when I looked more skinny fat despite eating 1 gram per pound of body weight and protein, lifting heavy weights 5 days a week, hitting my macros, etc. The big mistake was that I never changed my macros. I always just maintained them. I was eating usually 1,1700, maybe I would go up to maximum 2,000, but there was no real strategy. There was no reason as to why I would be eating a certain amount. I kind of would just be like, oh, this feels good. And I would get obviously relatively lean. I would have ab definition, but again, never had the legs and glutes like I do now. And it was honestly more difficult and more restrictive than it is now. Now, this is because I did not understand how to go through these different phases. And even more than that, I was afraid to do a build/bulk. I was afraid to eat over 2,000 calories a day because I was afraid, oh, if you build, if you bulk, then I'm just gonna get fat and I'm just gonna be huge, and I don't wanna do it. I wanna just stay lean and really defined. And this is the big trap that so many women are in. Like, probably honestly the vast majority of you watching are obsessed with cutting only. That's the only thing you ever do, is you just try to cut, you just try to lose fat, you just try to keep your calories low. And that was me, and look where it got me. I was putting in all this effort and I really didn't see any physique changes for so many years. So what you need to do is you need to trust that eating more is actually going to get you the results that you want. And why is that? Because that really sculpted, snatched hourglass body with the popping glutes and defined legs, guess what it is? It is a muscular body. That is why you look like that. Think about it. Your glutes are the biggest muscle in your entire body. Your glutes and legs together are huge muscles. So if you are barely eating, it is impossible for these muscles to grow. You really need to give them a lot of fuel in order for them to actually create any real shape. And not only, of course, is it the way you eat, it's also the way you train. It really is both. People think that, oh, I have a workout plan, so I just need help with nutrition. I literally get DMs like that all the time. I'm telling you, it is not just your nutrition. It is 50-50 when it comes to building muscle, because although you need to eat the right way in order to support body composition, meaning how much muscle and how much fat you have, you cannot gain muscle just from eating. The way that you're going to gain muscle is, yes, eating the right ratios of food and the right amount to support the muscle growth, of course, but if you are not creating the correct stimulus on your muscles, they will not grow. The stimulus is going to come from the resistance you put on your muscles, which is going to come from your training. And the best way to train, in this case, to build maximum muscle gain is lifting weights, especially in a gym, or at least if you're going to do it at home with adequate equipment. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to figure out whatever is the amount of food that your body is currently adapted to. Please do not go use a TDEE calculator or a macro calculator online, because these calculators have no way of knowing what your body's actually adapted to. It is just going to spit out an average of the population, but your body may be very, very different from the average, right? Your metabolism, for whatever reason, could be adapted to a much lower amount of calories, or it could be adapted to a much higher amount. So you need to actually find out what it is. And how do you find out what it is? You must track everything that you eat right now in an app like MyFitnessPal. So log everything for 7 days, then you're going to take that total, divide it by 7, and then you're going to have what your average intake is. You also want to look at what your macros are, right? What is the typical macros that you're eating, how much protein, carbs, and fats each day, and then what you're going to do is you're actually going to set those macros appropriately. So protein is going to be somewhere between 130 to 150 grams. The closer to 1 gram per pound of body weight, the better. Then your fats are going to be 25 to 30% of your intake. So that's the only one that you think of as a percentage. Protein and carbs you don't, but fat you do. So somewhere in there, that's what your fat intake is going to be. And then whatever calories are left over is going to go to your carbs. So I'm not going to break down extensively calculating all of this because I've done it in many other videos. So you can click here if you want to go check that out to have a more thorough breakdown of customizing your macros. But that is how you're going to get started. And then what you're going to be doing is taking weekly progress photos and weighing yourself every day. Now, pretty much everybody should do some amount of a reverse diet. You might as well at least try and see what kind of body recomposition you can have in this process, because a reverse diet is where you intentionally eat a little bit more bit by bit, and the outcome that you're hoping for with this is that your body is going to adapt to the higher calories and that you're going to start burning more calories on autopilot. So you're making your body more fuel efficient. You're also giving your body enough fuel, enough food to be able to actually build some muscle with, because again, you can't build muscle if you're barely eating. So when you pair this with good training, you should have pretty good results from your reverse diet. And then the last reason to do a reverse diet is because most people, the next phase is going to have to be that they do a cut, that they go into a calorie deficit to lose body fat. And the reason that it would be ideal for you to do some amount of reversing before you cut is because you want to have lots of room to drop your calories when you go into that cut. You know, you want to have somewhere between like 500 to 1,000 calories of room to drop without going so low in your calorie intake, right? Like the absolute lowest would maybe be something like 1,300, 1,200 at the absolute bare end of your deficit, but hopefully you would not even have to go that low. Most clients I work with are usually going to be able to end their cut around 1,700 calories a day, maybe a little bit lower than this. Okay, so after you have gone through your reverse and then your cut, this is when hopefully you will be able to move into the build stage. So this is when the magic is really going to happen as far as you building a great physique, especially on your lower body, because the build is where you go into a calorie surplus. You're eating more calories than your body is burning, which means, guess what? That your gaining weight. You're actually trying to gain weight in this stage. And I know that's a mind F for a lot of people, but again, you saw my before and afters. You see here that I weighed 137 pounds and I looked actually a little bit more fluffy. I didn't have as much shape versus now I'm 140 pounds and I'm way more snatched, way more hourglassy, the way that most women want to look, right? So just embrace that weighing more, gaining weight does not mean necessarily looking worse. A lot of the time it can mean looking better, because remember, it's really not about the weight, it's about the body composition. Where is the weight coming from? Muscle versus fat. So I spent the first 6 months of 2023 going from weighing only about 135 pounds and being just kind of skinny, not really having that much shape, to gaining 15 pounds in just 6 months, doing my first ever build and finishing off at 150 pounds. So as you can see, I gained a lot of muscle in that time. And when you finish your build, you will also have gained a little bit of body fat, because unfortunately, when you're in a surplus, you can't only gain muscle, you will also gain a little bit of body fat. And this is why you need to be already lean enough in order to go into your build. And it will be a little bit uncomfortable at the very end of your build. You're gonna feel a little thick, you're gonna feel a little jiggly, but rest assured, this is the phase that you have been really building your body. And now the next step, and what I did with my coach, is we did a 6-month cut. So we went from 150 pounds all the way down at the very, very end. I got down to 133 pounds in 6 months. So I lost 17 pounds. And as you can see, I got literally shredded. And this was the first time in my life I finally had that sculpted leg definition, the really poppin' glutes that I had always dreamed of. So I was now weighing pretty much the same as I had always weighed in years previous, but you can see my body looks totally different. And that is because I was willing to take the time, and some of it was a little bit uncomfortable, in order to actually build, in order to actually gain some muscle. And you just will not be able to gain that much muscle if you are not building. So this is why you have to do these phases. Now, I know that all of this is quite confusing. I have made multiple videos. I will link them in the description below about how you go through any of these stages. But of course, if you want your hand held through this whole process, if you don't want to have to figure it out, if you don't want to have to be doubting whether or not you're doing things right, you can come over and join our one-to-one coaching program, because this is exactly what we do. We literally guide you through every single step of this journey. We support and guide you to ensure that you are going to finally get the dream physique you've always wanted. And we're analyzing how your body's responding, customizing the program to what your body needs in order to guarantee you see those results. So click on the link in the description if you're interested, and you can come over and chat with us to see if the program would be a good fit. Okay, the second thing you need to do to get this sexy hourglass body and be able to maintain it for life, build those legs and glutes while keeping a small waist, is you need to train smarter. So don't just train harder, don't just train more. In fact, most of you should probably be training less. I mean, unless you don't work out very much at all right now, then okay, it's gonna be more. But I know a lot of you were like myself in the past, where I was consistently going to the gym 5 days a week and also consistently hitting lower body 3 days a week. And what did I have to show for it? I was just skinny. I really had no shape. My glutes were really small. And it was when I was working with my coach that we changed over to 4 days a week, just 2 lower bodies a week and then 2 uppers, that my physique totally changed. So I was honestly so humbled by this, because for so many years I thought you just had to always be going to the gym, had to push yourself super heavy, do all the really hardcore exercises. And it was with her that I realized there's much more fine detail to it than that. So the big realizations I had as far as what my actual workouts look like were a couple things. Number one, that you do some isolation exercises at the very beginning of your workout, as opposed to saving all of them for the end. So this is called your pre-exhaust, which is where you do the slightly easier, slightly less challenging exercises that target the muscles you want to hit in that session. And that way you're getting them stimulated, you're getting them warmed up, so that by the time you get to your big lifts, they're really ready to go and really ready to build some muscle. So a good example of this would be on one of your lower body days, it should be more quad oriented, so the front of your legs, and the other day should be more hamstring oriented, the back of your legs. And that's another point I want to make just quick, is that when it comes to building glutes, a lot of girls think it's just glutes that you're trying to build, but you are also trying to build your legs. And a lot of girls think they don't want to grow their legs. They're like, oh my God, no, I don't want to have these like big bulky legs. I only want to have a bigger butt. But trust me, you also need to be hitting your leg muscles in order to really get that shape that you want. And it's going to look really good. It's going to look defined and sculpted the way you want. It's not going to look bulky and huge when you do it the way that I'm telling you. So what this pre-exhaust looks like is, for example, let's say it's your quad day. The very first exercise you would start off with is leg extension. So nice and simple, but you're still going to give it a full effort and just really make those quads burn, really stimulate them. And then that way, when you get to your next exercises, which is maybe things like Bulgarian split squats, hack squats, the things that are more challenging, more difficult, they're already going to be stimulated and ready to go. And then same thing with your hamstrings. You're probably going to start off with some lying hamstring curls, or it could also be seated. Maybe something like abductions. You can also throw in a little bit of glutes in the beginning of your pre-exhaust. And then that way, by the time you're getting to your stiff-legged deadlifts, you're getting to your hip thrusts, you're going to be really ready to go. Now, another big, very humbling aspect of all of this was realizing that it's not just about lifting heavy. It is more about how you lift the weights that is really going to build the muscle on your body. Because the thing is, your muscles don't know weight, they just know tension. Meaning, your muscles don't know if you're doing a 200-pound deadlift or if it's way lighter than that. The only thing that's really making the muscle grow is how well and how directly stimulated those muscles are. So a big thing that I worked on with my coach is actually reducing how much weight I was lifting on a lot of exercises, but controlling the weight better. So this looks like having a more full range of motion. So for example, with a hip thrust, coming up all the way to the top, really making sure I'm at a complete full lockout at the top instead of skimping on it and only thrusting up some of the way because the weight is too heavy. And then also with a hip thrust, for example, is with lighter weights, I ended up getting way more of a glute pump because when I went so heavy with my hip thrust, the problem was that I actually was using too much of my lower back to try to overcompensate in how much I was lifting. So this is why when I was doing it a little bit lighter, it ended up actually working way better and I got way more of a glute pump. So let me tell you, that was really humbling because I was over here putting 3 plates on each side of the bar for a very long time. And once I went down to just 1 plate on each side, my glutes absolutely exploded. And the really key aspect of training smarter instead of harder when it comes to building this amazing lower body and overall sexy hourglass physique is that you really need to give your all in the session that you are doing. So this is key to not confuse this with exercising more often, exercising for longer, but instead you're just going in 4 days a week. You're only doing 5 or 6 exercises per workout, but the exercises that you are doing, you're giving it your full effort. And this means that you are really trying to train pretty much all the way to failure. Really, it should be maximum failure, meaning you literally cannot do a single more rep. You have absolutely failed the exercise, or at least getting very close to that, getting to that point where your muscles are just absolutely screaming. And honestly, get to that point where you're like, oh my God, my muscles are burning. Oh my God, this is so hard. And still go past that. Like just push yourself to the maximum capability that you can while still maintaining good form, full range of motion, and good muscle-mind connection. And it was all these small tweaks to my training that made a huge difference in the results I saw. And that's why I'm telling you, I was actually working out less, but getting way better results, finally getting the dream physique that I always wanted. Okay, and the third and final step to build this sexy lower body and overall amazing hourglass physique that you can easily maintain is you have to be really consistent and you have to be super patient, okay? I know that is really annoying to hear. I used to think that that was so annoying when I would hear these other fitness people talking about it, but it just is the truth that a huge transformation like that is going to take time. However, here is the cool part, is that it does take time to build up to that, but once you get there, you will maintain it. So this is the fun part, and this is what a lot of people don't get being in our instant gratification, quick fix culture. They're so focused on how can I get these results really quickly, but then they go just as fast as they came and you're in a worse position than when you started. Versus this way of doing it, just like literally anything worth having in life, is yes, one small step at a time, really slow and steady, but the difference is once you have built that physique, it is with you now forever. You can't just lose it. You are permanently transformed your body. You're just always going to look this way, and you can easily maintain it at this point. So that is what makes it so worth it. So what kind of timeline are we talking here? I always tell people you should be thinking at least 1 year, if not 2. Now, that's not to say that it's going to take 1 year for you to see any results. Of course not. You're going to be seeing results pretty quickly, even within your first 1 to 2 months. Every step of the way, you're going to be noticing gradual progress. And this, by the way, is all the more reason to actually take weekly progress photos, because a lot of the time you may think there are no results happening, but if you put your photos side by side, that is when you will actually notice that the changes are happening. So this is why that is such a key component to our coaching. Our clients have to take weekly progress photos, and they're always so glad that they did, because then they actually can see the changes happening. So why does it take 1 to 2 years? And even this, again, this is just the beginning. You can keep building from there. And really, these amazing physiques that you see take many, many years. A lot of the time those people have been training for like 5, 6, 8 years, something like that. The reason you need to give it that amount of time is simply because it takes quite a bit to take off all the fat that you have and also put on all the muscle that you need in order to get this physique. You have to go through many different phases of reversing, cutting, building, and then cutting again, reversing again, building again, right? And you just kind of keep cycling this for as long as you want. You can eventually stop if you're just like, yeah, I want to chill, I want to maintain here. And I do that definitely some of the time. Sometimes I'm just taking a few months where I'm more so just kind of coasting with my results. I'm not really aggressively pushing for any one way or the other. But most of the time you should actually be working on building, assuming you don't have a bunch of fat to lose. If you have a bunch of fat to lose, then you're going to need to be putting your energy into your reverse cut until you get lean enough. And then you can just focus on a long-term, very chill, very gradual build, because why not be aiming to still stay relatively lean, but also be putting on some muscle. So it takes time, it takes consistency, and the consistency you should have should be hitting your macros 5 days a week within 5 grams plus or minus. It can maybe be as little as 4 when you're really in your build, just because you're eating so much. And then unfortunately, when you're cutting, it really needs to be 6 days a week. You need to be on point when you are trying to lose fat. So you gotta stay consistent. You gotta be getting in your lifts, really pushing yourself hard in the gym, getting form feedback, record yourself, actually look at how you do the exercises, look at where you can improve, and then stay consistent, going through these 3 phases, cycling between them for 1 to 2 years plus. And trust me, you'll be so pleased with the end result. All right, fam, so that is how you do it. That is how you get this snatched hourglass body with popping glutes, amazing sculpted legs. So again, if you don't want to have to figure this out on your own, if you just want to be guided through step by step exactly how to do this, this is what we offer inside of our one-to-one coaching program, and we get jaw-dropping transformations. Our clients are absolutely in love with the program. They learn so much so fast, and they stop wasting their time and energy trying to do it all on their own, exactly like I was doing for so long as well. So if you're interested, click on the link below. We would love to talk to you. All right, fam, thank you so much for checking out this video. Now, next, I want you to go watch this one here, where I'm going to break down even further the differences between cutting, building, and reversing, what to expect in each phase, and how to actually take yourself through each phase. So I will see you over in that video.